Hi guys, and welcome back to another Championship Fixtures prediction. Now, we're moving on to round 4 now, but firstly, let's take a look at what I got correct from round 3. So, I correctly predicted that Luton would beat Barnsley 1-0, and I also correctly predicted that Fulham would beat Millwall 2-1. And the strange thing about that is I've now guessed Millwall's first 3 fixtures all correctly. So I hope to continue that. That can be a little bonus, but I'm pretty sure that'll be gone by this week, knowing my luck. However, the target I did set of getting 2 correct scores in the game week has happened again in the 3rd round fixtures. Exactly 2 scores correct. So I'm still getting my target, which is nice. I would like to try and take it that step further, but it is difficult to guess scores. So I'm happy with the 2. Let's get into round 4 fixtures now for the Championship. Starting off with Friday night, and it's Bristol City taking on Swansea. Now, Bristol City, they picked up their first win since the 13th of March. That win was against Blues. It was a 3-0, which I don't like to say, but at least that wasn't their last win in the league now. They beat Reading 3-2, which was quite a surprise. I wasn't expecting that to happen. And maybe they've turned a bit of a corner now. Swansea, they haven't really started under Russell Martin yet. And they lost 3-1 to Stoke. Now, this game, I can see it playing out quite evenly. And I don't really know why, but I can see this being a 1-1 draw. Moving into Saturday's fixtures now, and starting off with the early kickoff, which is QPR versus Barnsley. Now QPR, they've started really well, as I would have expected them to. They beat Middlesbrough 3-2 in the week, even though they went down to 10 men at the start of the second half after they just pulled it back to 1-1. And they look like they're going to carry that form on, because Barnsley haven't started too well yet. I am expecting them to get better, but I think they're still taking a bit of time to get used to Marcus Schopp's tactics. So for that reason, I'm going to say QPR to win 2-0. Moving on to the 3 o'clock kickoffs, and starting with Bournemouth versus Blackpool. Now, I don't know if anyone else watched the Blues versus Bournemouth game, but I don't think, in my probably biased opinion, that Bournemouth deserved anything out of that game. I think they would have been lucky to get away with a draw, but I think Blues were the better side. We created a lot of chances, we just couldn't take them, especially in the first half. If we had a clinical striker, then I think we probably would have been about 2-0 up in the first half and saw the game out quite comfortably. But that's the difference. Bournemouth, they've got Solanke, he can take chances. They've got players, they've got a bit of depth, and they can take their chances because they've got a better squad. It's just the way it goes when these teams have parachute payments from the Premier League, but you can't really do anything about it. Blackpool, I'll keep it short. I don't think their squad is strong enough to compete with Bournemouth at the moment, and I think Bournemouth will win this quite comfortably. So I'm going to go for Bournemouth to win 3-0. On to West Brom versus Blackburn, and West Brom was so impressive on Wednesday night. They ran out 4-0 winners against Sheffield United and absolutely obliterated them. And I think that's sort of going to set the tone for the way West Brom's season's going to go. But Blackburn, they have also started very well. West Brom moved top of the table on 7 points. Blackburn also have 7 points. They're one of the only 6 teams to have 7 points from a possible 9 so far. However, I can see Blackburn getting a goal, but West Brom, they just look a bit too strong in attack for pretty much every team in the league. So I think West Brom will win this 2-1. On to Cardiff versus Millwall, and I'm hoping to keep up my streak with Millwall, but I'm not so sure it's going to continue, as this looks like a game that could go either way. Now, Cardiff, they came back in the week against Peterborough. Peterborough were 2-0 up, but a double from Aidan Flint, of all people, got them back into the game, drew 2-2, equalised in the 96th minute. So I've heard that they weren't very good for the first 70 minutes, but then they sort of woke up and they just switched it on and got back into the game, which was very impressive. Millwall, they just like drawing a lot of games. Fulham beat them, but Fulham will beat the majority of teams in the division. So I'm going to sort of go quite safe because it's Millwall and because it's Mick McCarthy at Cardiff, and go for a 1-1 draw. Moving on to Coventry versus Reading now, and Coventry have started the season very well. They've got 6 points out of their 3 games, and they look like they've continued the form from the back end of last season. Reading, they weren't so good in the week. They lost 3-2 to Bristol City, who haven't won a game for a very long time, and they've been pretty chaotic this season. They've scored 6, they've conceded 7. Just sort of expect high-scoring games from Reading at the moment. But I think Coventry, they might just have a little bit more than Reading, especially with them conceding all them goals. So for this game, I'm going to go Coventry to win 2-1. On to Derby versus Middlesbrough next. And Derby, a lot of people's predictions to finish bottom of the table. They have got 4 points from 3 games, but if you look at who they've played, it's Huddersfield, who no one really expected anything of, and it's 2 newly promoted teams in Hull and Peterborough. So I think it's only going to get harder from here for them, and this could be where it gets quite difficult, as they're facing Middlesbrough, who they did lose 3-2 to QPR in a very crazy game, and I know Neil Warnock at the end of the match was absolutely fuming at the referees, but Middlesbrough, they are a cut above the teams that Derby have played so far. So I think, although Middlesbrough don't tend to score many goals, I think they will keep that up, but I think they will be able to score enough to beat this Derby side. So I'm predicting Middlesbrough to win 2-1. On to Fulham versus Hull, and Hull, they have struggled quite a bit since that 4-1 opening day win over Preston. And with Fulham being in such good form, they've got 7 points. I think Fulham are just going to have way too much, and this could be quite a long afternoon for Hull. I'm predicting Fulham to win 3-0. Moving into Luton versus Blues, and I really do fancy Luton here for like a 1-0 win. I think if I didn't have a horse in the race, I'd definitely go for a Luton 1-0 win. They have started very impressively. However, Blues, we were hard done by in that Bournemouth result, I think. I don't think the result reflected the play at all. And it was just our lack of being able to convert chances that let Bournemouth win that game. I'm hoping we can start converting chances soon. And it's hope that's going to make me say this is going to be a 1-1 draw. On to Preston versus Peterborough. And Preston are one of only 2 teams that have no points yet this season. They haven't looked good at all, and I am a bit worried for their season as they lost 1-0 to Huddersfield, which isn't a great result at all. Peterborough, on the other hand, they were unlucky not to win against Cardiff in that 2-2 draw, as they were 2-0 up, but they have seemed to come to life after that first 3-0 loss to Luton, which was poor, but they got a win against Derby, and since that moment, they have came to life. So that's making me think that this game is going to be a 2-1 win to Peterborough. The next game is Sheffield United versus Huddersfield, and surely they have to get their first goal of the season here. Sheffield United were absolutely decimated at the Hawthorns, 4-0, and it was really poor on their part. But Huddersfield also look quite poor this season. They did manage to get a win against Preston, but it was very weird as they didn't even manage a shot on target and still somehow won. So they're not creating much at all. I can't see a way where Sheffield United don't get their goal here, but I don't think it's going to be one and it's going to bring on an onslaught. So I'm thinking that Sheffield United will win this, but it'll only be 1-0. And into the last game, which is Stoke versus Nottingham Forest. Now Stoke, they just sort of walked past Swansea like they weren't really there. They won 3-1, they were 3-0 up. They looked in control the whole time. Forest, they've lost the 3rd game in a row 2-1 against Blackburn. And it's just making me think it's going to become a bit of a trend, as they are the other team that have no points. So it's going to be a bit weird if it does happen, but I'm going to predict Stoke to win 2-1. And those are my predictions for round 4 of the Championship fixtures. Let me know in the comments what you agree with, what you disagree with. Put your predictions down in the comments. Please like the video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more Premier League and Championship content. Hope you enjoy this weekend's fixtures, and up the Blues.